everyone. I'm Aisha Chaudhary, and this is the second demo of the internship. Here I'll talk about Stripe and its checkout sessions. So let's get started. Firstly, we'll understand what Stripe is. Stripe is a payment service provider that allows businesses to accept payments, send payouts, and manage their finances online. Stripe's payments processing solution Stripe Payments is well suited for businesses that primarily sell online. Stripe supports many popular options including credit cards, debit cards, mobile wallets, and buy now pay later services. Stripe also offers tools and APIs to help platforms and marketplaces manage payments while remaining compliant. Okay, so Stripe is basically a payment service provider. Okay, that allows businesses to accept payments like the online payments we do on shopping websites or other maybe websites are there like education or where we get courses, any website that supports online payments or like money transactions. So it really reduces the stress of offline cash and checks. So it's well suited for online payments. Okay, so these are some payment status in Stripe. So payment status is the condition of the payment overall flow of the payment that a customer has to go through. Okay, so the first one is initiated. So initiated is the process where the first and foremost stage of payment, like a person on an e-commerce website gets on their cart and clicks on the pay button. Okay, so the payment has been initiated. The second stage is created when the user is redirected to the Stripe hosted page. Then the payment status is created. Okay. The third thing is pending when the user is already on the payment page and he has to now upload its details so that it can process the payment. And success. When the payment has been successfully done, the status gets to success. And when the payment fails somehow due to any condition, then it's failed. Yes, many conditions that makes the payment to fail. There could be a network error or some wrong input of the credit card numbers, or when user clicks on the back button, and several other cases which leads to failed status of the payment. Now we'll look at the payment flow. Okay, like in general, how a payment process actually works. Okay, so this is the diagram to understand it. The first thing, the user clicks on the checkout button in the client browser. Okay, so here's the checkout page. The user clicks on checkout and it goes through to the payment services. It is the system that we'll develop and create our code on our side. Okay, so then the payment services makes a call to the PSP or Stripe payment service provider. Okay, then the PSP returns a payment token or a unique kind of ID that would be used for the payment. Okay, so now we have to store that token into our database for further use and for further record. And then the our system redirects the user to the hosted page of the PSP. Okay, and then the client has to enter their details, the credit card details or other banking details to move forward for the payment process. Then they start the payment and it goes to the payment service provider. Okay, and when the whatever process has been done, even if it's failed or it has been successfully done, the PSP would give the result to the hosted page or to the client. Then it redirects it to the payment completion page. If it's successful, it will show a success message, or it may somehow get failed due to any kind of error, then it will show that too. Okay. uh, Lastly, the payment service provider will give a webhook or a notification to our payment service, that payment system, that the payment has been completed, and now we can update our database to success. Like we can store that the payment has been successfully completed, or even if it's not, then we can add a fail to our database. Now let's understand the Stripe checkout flow. Okay, so when the customers are ready to complete their purchase, the application creates a new checkout session. See, here the client is sending the order information, like the quantity of the product or the price and the other details. Then the server creates a checkout session. Okay, then checkout session to the Stripe API, and in return, the Stripe API returns a checkout session. Okay, then the server redirects the customer to a URL from checkout session to fill out the details and basically fill the banking details to complete the payment. Okay, this is the Stripe checkout page, which basically provides the data or the form basically in which the user has to fill their details. Okay, then the customer completes the payment and returns to their original application where they started from. Okay, and then the Stripe API will handle the fulfillment and give the user the confirmation that their payment has been successfully completed, and a webhook to our system. Basically, what we understood here, a webhook to our system so that we can store it in our database that the payment has been successfully completed. Okay, now let's go to the Stripe API documentation to understand the checkout session. Okay, so this is the sessions. A checkout session represents your customer's session as they pay for one-time purchases or subscriptions through checkout or payment links. Basically, the overall flow of the system, it has various stages, right? So those are the sessions that customer has to go through for the payment. Okay. Once payment is successful, the checkout session will contain a reference to the customer and either the successful payment intent or an active subscription. Okay, so this is the endpoint to basically create a session, a new session. This is the API endpoint, and it supports post method. The session has various attributes to it, like ID, client reference ID, currency, customer email, metadata, mode, payment intent, and payment status. Okay, so we will look through it in this overall video. So the payment status of the checkout session, one of paid, unpaid, or no payment required. So these are the three payment status that we'll look through. The one is paid, unpaid, or no payment required. Paid usually comes when the payment has been successfully made. Unpaid is the situation where the user hasn't made any kind of payment due to any error or a failed system or anything other situation. And then no payment required. It could be a situation where a user will buy a thing now, buy a product now, but will pay later. So that situation will lead to no payment required. See, here it is written, the payment is delayed to a future date or the checkout session is in setup mode. Paid is the payment funds are available in your account. Unpaid, the payment funds are not yet available into your account. There is return URL, so applies to checkout sessions with the UI mode embedded. The URL to redirect your customer back to after they authenticate or cancel their payment on the payment methods app or site. Okay, status, complete, expired, or open. The complete session is like the payment processing may still be in progress. It's like complete. Expired is like no further processing will occur. Open, it means the checkout session is still in progress and payment processing has not yet started. The success URL is when the payment has been done and now the user has to be redirected to a page where it shows that the payment has been successfully done, a success URL. And there are other attributes too. One of them is cancel URL. Okay, so it displays a back button and customers will be redirected to this URL if they decide to cancel payment and return to your website. Okay, so we'll perform a task related to this one. Invoke Stripe, create session, get session, expire session API calls, and interpret end-to-end behavior. This is the session API that will be used to get the data or to get the sessions. First scenario is failed and success cases. Here we will first call create session. It gives ID and URL, launch URL in browser, make get session call, check Stripe status, enable Stripe CLI for notifications. On hosted page URL, make failed attempts, check browser behavior and notification behavior, make get session API call and check status, make success payment, check browser behavior and notification status, make get session API for above successful transaction and check status. Okay, so first we will perform scenario 1. So first thing we will do is get to Postman. Here I have already created 3 sessions: create session, expire session, and get session. The first one is create session. Here we have already provided the body with this attributes and some values. Okay, and the authorization is basic auth, the basic HTTP auth. The method is post. Now let's send it. Okay, this is the ID generated and this is unique just for one-time payment. This is the URL generated. Now let's copy it and paste it here. Okay, I've made a mistake. Sorry. Let's do it again. Good thing. So this is the Stripe hosted page, this which is in test mode, and here we have to fill the details. Okay. Now we have to call the get session API. Let's get to Postman. This is the get session. Okay. This is the URL. Now I'll have to add the current ID. This is. Let's copy it. And paste it here. send. Okay, so this is the result. Let's copy it and check it. This is the normal get session before any kind of transaction. We can see the payment status is unpaid and the status is open for now. Now let's go back to our checkout page here. So there was a point too where we have to open the Stripe CLI to get notifications, right? So this is the Stripe CLI. I've already made a transaction, a test transaction before, so let's move forward to see another one. Sorry, let's add some demo email. A valid card, maybe. Okay, on the Stripe documentation page, we'll look for a declined payments uh, card number. Let's copy this and paste it here. And add any future date, for example, and any 3-digit CVC. Name could be anything, and click on pay. Okay, so it says your credit card was declined. So obviously I've used a declined card number. Now let's look at the notifications on Stripe CLI. Okay, so it says payment intent, payment failed, charge failed. Okay, so the payment was not successful and it eventually failed due to a invalid card information. Okay, now let's give a valid number and see the result. Let's go back to Stripe documentation, give a valid number, select this, check out, pay. Okay, I gave the success URL of the Stripe official page, so that's why it redirected to this. And let's go back to CLI. Payment intent succeeded, charge succeeded, and checkout session completed. Okay, so we made a successful payment with the valid card information. Now we can see the link has been expired, which means that we can only make the payment once and we cannot use it again. Let's go to Get Session API to check the current status. Let's do this. Get session. Okay, so it says payment status paid and status is complete. So we made a successful payment with the valid card number and the status it shows paid and complete. Okay, now let's perform another action. Let's go to, let's create another session. Copy the URL. Okay, let's email. give let's give an invalid card number. Generate decline. Future date. CVC. Full name. Whatever. Thanks. It says declined. Let's go to get session. ID. So it says payment status is unpaid and the status is open right now. Even if the card was declined, it still says unpaid and open. Okay. Okay. So let's get back to this page. Okay. Click on back button. Leave. Okay. Now what's the session condition? Let's copy. It still says unpaid and open even if we click the back button. So whatever failure is occurring right now, the condition of payment status is unpaid and status is open. Okay, so we are done with the scenario 1 of the task we were completing. Now it's time to look at the second scenario, which was cancel behavior. Okay, the first thing is add a cancel URL and create and test it end to end. Then create session from Postman with cancel URL. Redirect to URL and then use back button and check browser and notification behavior. Okay, so let's get to Stripe session object. This is the cancel URL. And copy it and paste it to a create session. Body. Okay, so for the cancel URL, I will give the Stripes documentation URL. This one. Okay, so now let's click on send and check it. We have got the URL, copy and paste it on browser. Okay, so we can see we have got a back button here. Let's click on it. Okay, so the cancel URL is working. We are on the Stripe documentation page. Let's get back to Postman, get to get session, and we can, sorry, I didn't get the ID. Okay. Send, copy and paste it on notepad. We can see the payment status is unpaid and the status is open right now. The same situation which we uh, encountered in the previous scenario. The payment status was unpaid and status was open in that too. So even if we click on the back button, the payment status and status will be open and unpaid. Okay, so what was the next thing? What was the notification behavior? It doesn't show anything because I didn't give any value to that Stripe checkout page. Okay, so the second scenario we have checked. Let's look for the third scenario, which was to make expire API call. Make expire call and check response. Make get session, check notification, load URL in browser, and check what happens to payment. Okay, so let's get to Postman. Here is my expired session API. This is the URL, and this is the ID of the previous transaction or the previous create session that I checked. Let's create a new session again. This is the ID. Let's go to URL first. Okay, so we are on the Stripe checkout page. Let's, this is the ID of the current session. Copy it, paste it on this expired URL. Send it. Okay, so the payment status is still unpaid and the status expired because we obviously made a expired session call, but we are on the checkout page. We didn't do anything, just called the expire session API and it changed the status to expired. What if we add some data here? Let's with my mail and card numbers. Future date, CVC, whatever name. Click on pay. Okay. So as we made an expire API call, the status changed to expired, so that we can no longer make a payment. And we got an expired link here. Okay. So let's create another session. But before moving on, we need to check the Stripe CLI to get the notification. Okay. Okay. So it says checkout session expired. So it's working. The session expired. We did it. We made an API call. Okay, let's create another session. The URL. Okay, so let's go to Postman and check get session. Okay, get the ID. Paste it here. Click on send. Okay, sorry, my fault. Okay, so currently the payment status is unpaid and the status is open. So obviously we are on the checkout page and we haven't done anything. Like it's just we clicked made a create session API call and we did nothing after it. We're just on the page. Okay, so what if I go to create session and make an expired call again? So the status is now expired probably. Okay, so the payment status is unpaid and status is open right now. Even if we make the expired session, it still says that the status is open and payment status is unpaid. What if we click on get session now? Okay, it says the same thing. The payment status is unpaid and the status is open right now. Is there any change on CLI? No, nothing is here. What if I click on back button? Okay, it's redirected to the cancel URL. Let's go to Postman and click on get session. Okay, the status is open, it shows, and the payment status is unpaid. Okay, so I made the expired session API call and then clicked on back button, but the payment status is still unpaid and the status is open right now. How did this happen? And what about the CLI? It doesn't show anything. It's the previous one. Let's do the process once again. Go to Postman, create another session, and the URL is here. Okay, now let's add some invalid data again. Your card has expired, it says. Okay, let's go to Postman, get session, ID. Okay, payment status is unpaid and the status is showing open. Now, what if I make an expired call? Expire call. First things first, let's check the CLI. What is going on there? It says payment intent created, but charge failed. Payment intent, payment failed. Okay, so payment intent created, it was successfully created, the checkout session, but it failed because we entered a declined or invalid card number. Okay, now we'll make an expire call. Let's click on it again. So it says your card has expired. Let's look for get session. The payment status is unpaid here and the status is open right now. Even if we made the expired calls, we expire session call. Okay, let's call expire session again, and this time I'll enter a valid card number. Okay, okay, so the payment was successful even if I call the expire session, and we are redirected to the Stripe's official page. Let's check the CLI. It says checkout session completed and charge succeeded. Let's go to get session, click on it, and the payment status is paid now, and the status is complete. So we made a successful payment even after I made the expire session API call. That's interesting. Okay, so I have completed all three scenarios, which was making a fail and success cases, which was checking the fail and success cases. The second one was to check the cancel behavior, and third one was to make expire API call. Okay. Okay, I made a mistake. So this URL contains an expire in the end too. So somehow it got erased while I was writing the ID, while I pasted the ID for some session. So let's create the create session again and check the expire session work. Send or create a session. Copy the URL. Okay, we are on the Stripe posted page. Let's some dummy data. Valid card number. Copy, paste. Okay, so before that, we make an expire call. Let's enter the ID. And send. Okay, so now I have called the expire session API. So let's give an invalid number before that. Create this number, check out, click on pay. Okay, so it works. The link has been expired and we cannot make a payment because I made the expire call. Even if I enter the wrong number, wrong card number, the link will still say expire because I made the expire session API call from here. Okay, what does the CLI say? Checkout session expired. Okay, so it worked. So these were the conditions that we encountered or the failure situations that may occur, and we have to handle all of it into a payments system. So according to that, we have to code our whole system and payment service. Thank you for the opportunity. I learned and tested a lot from this demo, and apologies for the mistakes I've made in this during this demo, and thank you.